Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do a game that Matt could honestly care less about, but I've always loved since it came out when I was a kid. Icarus for the NES. It came out in the US in July of '87, I believe, and December of '86 in Japan. It was developed by the same people that developed Metroid, so that right there should tell you a lot about how the game's going to be. It's got your vertically scrolling levels, your side scrolling levels. It's got the multi-directional labyrinth or dungeon levels where the bosses are, and even turns into a full-scale side-scrolling shooter at the end where you're flying. It's pretty cool. It's got the standard graphics for the early NES. There's really no backgrounds to speak of. The music's got some bangers, and then it's got some not so bangers. The sound effects are pretty basic for the time, but they are what they are. But starting out, it's really hard. I mean, super hard, because you only have 1 bar of health. And we're gonna talk about just how to get more health and a lot more. Just let's check it out. You start out in the underworld, and right off the bat you meet several enemies. The she-mums, that's an enemy you're going to run into pretty much the entire game. The mono-eye, it flies in groups of 4, and there's different variations of it. Well, there's actually other different kinds of creatures that take its place later on. And then you'll run into the speck nose. It kind of looks like a mouse with, flying mouse, I don't know. But it's in the challenge room, and that's a good way to get hearts, and hearts are money in this game. So you do want to get as many hearts as you can. And then there's the Grim Reaper. If the Grim Reaper sees you, he just turns plumb silly, and he calls in his little buddies to come at you. And so that can be a pain sometimes, because they're in the most inopportune places, of course. Then you run into a harp, and all the enemies turn into hammers, and you don't really know why at first, but you'll find out later on whenever you get to a dungeon. But if you fall, there's no going back down. So if you fall out of screen, you die. I mean, that kind of sucks, but that's just the way it is. There are a lot of areas where accurate jumps are necessary. I mean, you have to make the jumps, and he takes a couple little steps. So a lot of times I would push up, put directionally up when I first land, just so I didn't fall off the little tiny platforms. So like I said, you do use the hearts in shops, and you can either buy health, or there's a feather to save you if you do fall off the screen. You'll float back up and land on a platform. Hopefully, it only lasts for so long, so you better find somewhere to get. And then there's the challenge room. It's not too hard to survive. You don't have to kill a bunch of monoliths. You just have to survive. I mean, you obviously need to shoot the monoliths because they're coming at you, but like I say, you don't have to kill them. You just survive for a certain amount of time, and then a wizard or whatever appears, and he gives you an arrow, and you get a strength upgrade. Now, points are important if you want a health upgrade, and I would suggest going for points on the very first level, World 1-1. There's a couple of spots where you can camp out, kill enemies that give you a lot of points. You get 20,000, you get 1 health upgrade. You get 50,000, you'll get 2. So you want to get as many points as you can as early in the game, because like I said earlier, it's hard from the get-go, and it'll get easier as you go along if you get some health upgrades. Each underworld level has its own set of challenges. Like, there's some ice levels, and then there's some lava pools. There's some kind of weed, bush type things that'll hurt you if you get into them. But, level 1-1 through 1-3 all basic concept. Just keep jumping up and make your way to the top, and you beat them. So once you complete 1-1 to 1-3, you get to go to your first dungeon. So let's check it out. Okay, so welcome to your first fortress. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is the game is vastly different from what it has been up until this point. Most rooms you can go all different directions. Well, not most of them, but some of them anyway. But that's completely different from what you're used to at that point. There are some familiar faces like the She-Mums, but a lot of new ones. The Ganymedes, they're like the Specnos. They fly around, and you can either stay in that room and fight them and get some hearts, or you can move on about your business. The Kobolds, they're not too hard to kill, but they always seem to be one on a small ledge that you're trying to get to, and so they're more of a nuisance than anything. But then there's the Eggplant Wizard. Now, who comes up with this stuff? The dude turns you into an eggplant, and then you have to get to the hospital to get cured, and that's just wild. I don't know, but maybe it's just me. But the hospital is a new room, and there's also another room that you've never been in the underworld, which is the recovery pool, and it'll refill your health, and it comes in really handy. It's not really, it'd be nice if it was real close to the boss lair, but it's not. And then there's these spikes. These things, oh man, they got me just about every time. I mean, you can work out the timing on them or whatever, but I don't know, just do your best is all I can tell you. Then you finally get to use all those hammers you've been getting when you picked up a harp along the way and wondered, what am I getting these hammers for? You'll see here in a minute whenever I fight the boss. But I can't imagine playing this labyrinth, fortress, dungeon, whatever you want to call it, without a visual map. I mean, you get a map in the game, and you get a pin that will basically track your progress or whatever. But if it was one of those deals where you had to, just trial and error and try to remember which way to go, that would definitely suck. But then you finally make it to the boss, and his name's Twin Bellows. He's kind of like a two-headed dog dinosaur looking thing. And he's not too hard to beat. And you'll see that all the statues that you've broken along the way with your hammers, all of them now are your little buddies that they fly in and they try to help with the boss. Now, with Twin Bellows, they basically get wiped out immediately. But, I mean, I guess if they get a shot or two on him, that's great. But, so you beat Twin Bellows, and then it's onward to the overworld. Alright, so welcome to the overworld. That's levels 2-1 to 2-3. Now, it is side-scrolling, a lot of platforming. It's just a classic platformer type levels. Now, it does have some clouds for a background. I guess they finally decided they'd put some backgrounds in, and then some mountaintops on, I think, 2-3. But you get the pool of recovery as one of the rooms that you get to, and that helps out a lot. But there are lots of new enemies, and you got the mix, and they're a lot like the mono eyes from the underworld, and so you ought to be used to dealing with stuff like that by now. But you got the Karens, and they might as well be called Karens, but they're evil jumping frogs, which is pretty terrifying thought if you really think about it. You got the Rockmen, and they fall from the sky constantly. It's like there was just a major storm, and didn't have any rain. It was just all rock, and I hate them. But I don't hate anybody worse than the Plutons. The Plutons are thieves, and they steal your enchanted weapons. Now, earlier I made a mistake and said that when you fought the monoliths in the challenge room that you got a strength upgrade. You don't. You get an enchanted weapon. So anyway, if the Plutons touch you, they steal one of your enchanted weapons, and that sucks. I mean, you can always get them back, but still, I hate them worse than any enemy in the game, and I wish I could kill all of them. Now the snowmen, they're just jerks that look like they're wannabe astronauts, basically. But there are lots of snow in these levels, and so it obviously makes the platforms you're landing on slippery, and so that adds its own set of challenges. But you got the elevator platforms that move up and down and all that, so you got to time your jumps right, this and that. But then they add briar bushes, or just briar patches to the to where you have to jump off the elevator, otherwise you take damage. But the overworld it's not too terribly hard, because hopefully at this point in the game you have increased your health bar significantly, or at least some, so you can make it through there. And the addition of the pool of recovery, which I'm not saying they're plentiful, but the addition of the pool of recovery does help you quite a bit. So make it through these 3 worlds, and then you get to the next labyrinth. So the overworld's fortress is quite a bit tougher and a lot bigger than the underworld's was, and the enemies, a lot of the same, but the Tamombos have taken the place of the Ghanoumedes in the rooms that are like those Speck-Nose challenge rooms, and the spikes. Oh my lord, the spikes! They're more prevalent, and they're way bigger pain in the ass, especially the rooms that you gotta either go up or down, and they're shooting out from all sides, and you just, I mean, I don't know how to go through it and not get hit. I'm sure there's a speed run out there where somebody goes through the whole game and takes no damage, but yeah, more power to you, dude. But there's way more eggplant wizards, and there are only 2 hospitals, which there was only 1 in the first fortress, but heck, there weren't near as many eggplant wizards, and it wasn't near as big. I hope you're powered up by the time you play this one, because like I say, it is just outrageously harder. But the boss, Hoodrew, he's way harder than Twin Bellows as well. Twin Bellows was the boss of the first dungeon, but his pattern, it's really easy to learn, but there's only a couple of platforms, so he's really hard to avoid. I mean, you know where you need to be, but there's not a place for you to be, if I know that makes sense. But anyway, your little buddies that you get by breaking the statues with the hammer, they help. I mean, I can do with them or without them, but it's just I don't know, they just get killed almost immediately. So the more hammers you have and the more little buddies you have, I guess the better you're gonna do. But like I say, he is a lot harder than Twin Bellows, so just learn his pattern, and if you can find a way to jump from platform to platform, just take him out. But then when and if you do, you will be rewarded with going to Sky World, which is another vertically scrolling section of the game, and got some pretty wacky graphics. So yeah, we'll check that out next. So Skyworld's basically just like the Underworld, but it's more technical. It's got a lot of really precise jumps you got to make and things like that. I mean, obviously the enemies are harder and all that, but by this point, like I said earlier, the game actually gets easier as you go on because you've gained so much HP by this point, hopefully. If not, then I pity you. I don't even know how you've made it this far. But in Skyworld, the graphics, they're kind of a mix of Greek architecture and Norfair from Metroid. But as I said earlier, it was developed by the same people that developed Metroid, and they couldn't help themselves. They had to throw a few of them in there, so you do have to battle a Metroid. I don't know if it's called a Metroid if you read the guide for it, but anyway. The other enemies are pretty much variations of the ones we've already seen before. Especially this one here, the Pluton. And they're the Pluton flies here, and it's flying versions of the thieves from the overworld. And I hate them even more because, you know, you're usually on a ledge or something trying to make a jump, and they come up and they steal one of your sacred items or whatever the heck they're called. But yeah, I mean, it's the same concept as the Underworld. You just ascend the stages and then you'll reach the Sky Temple. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I mean, it looks a lot better than the first levels did. And I wish I would have spent more time on these levels and less on the first levels. But the first three levels were a heck of a lot more of a struggle. Because you just didn't have any HP, and like I said earlier, once again, getting HP is key in this game. Get points, get HP, and you can make it through this game without it being too terribly hard. So let's check it out. Let's go for the gold. Let's get the Sky Temple here and kill Medusa, who, by the way, is the easiest end boss I've ever fought in my life. So the fortress for the Sky World is by far the biggest that you've been to so far, but it's nothing that you haven't really faced. I mean, it's got a lot of eggplant wizards, a lot of spike rooms, which by now, if you've made it this far, you know the spike rooms are just a pain. And but it does have 2 recovery rooms, but it's just so massive that by the time you make it to the boss, known as Pandora, you may or may not still have any health left. So it's good if you have the barrel that can carry several chalices of health with you or whatever. But I mean, there's not much I can say about this. It's just a massive dungeon, fortress, labyrinth, whatever you want to call it, and eventually you make it to the boss. Now the boss is a bubble face looking being with 2 bubble henchmen that you can't shoot or hurt. So patience is key. I mean, all you gotta do is wait for Pandora to come down, shoot a couple times, and then she flies back up, and then wait for her to come down and shoot a couple more times. Just get her as many times as you can when she's down. Just if you try to go to her, or, well, me personally, if I tried to go to her, it didn't work in my favor, especially with her two little bubble buddies flying around. And speaking of buddies, I had no hammers or mallets, whatever you want to call them, going into this dungeon, so I didn't get any little buddies to help me, so I don't know if they would have helped in this fight or not. But anyway, so I just I died a couple times fighting her, and then finally I decided just to slow my roll, and I just kind of just waited on her, like I said, and I managed to kill her fairly easy. Whenever I just didn't try to get ahead of myself and go on the offensive too hard, you know. But anyway, so, but once you beat her, the last level is just basically a full-on side-scrolling shooter. The game just completely flips the script. I hate saying that, but that's what it does. And anyway, so you fly through there, and then you face Medusa, and Medusa's the easiest freaking end boss I've ever fought, because there's just one spot that you can get to where, okay, so she's got the eye, she's a big eye sticking out of a wall. Obviously she's got snake hair, but like my cats are going crazy. But anyway, she shoots the snake out, and the snake goes the same direction every single time. And so you can find a spot to get away from the snake, and if you hover just right, it draws her, what she shoots out, downward, and so you can just get in the sweet spot and not get hit by anything, and then just take her out quickly, very quickly. And it's kind of ridiculous, but I didn't feel like going over all that, so I'm gonna end the video by telling y'all to like and subscribe. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. And anyway, I'm gonna end on the last level and the ending that I got. Now it does have I think 4 different endings, so if you feel like a big boy, play Kid Icarus, see if you can beat it and get the best ending. You guys have a good one.